Michael Cohen has been remanded into Bureau of Prison custody. According to Cohen's lawyer, the government argues Cohen failed to follow the terms of his prison release program. His lawyer called the charge false and inaccurate. Let's bring in NBC News investigations reporter Tom Winter. So, Tom, Michael Cohen showed up at federal court today, presumably to sign documents relating to his house arrest. But also over the weekend, he was photographed having dinner outside of his house at a New York City restaurant. What more can you tell us about what happened?
It sure was, Katie. What I can tell you is I'm surprised that this didn't happen sooner. Michael Cohen was not out on probation. He wasn't out on home confinement. He was still serving his prison term. And last I checked, most prisoners in federal prison don't have the opportunity to go to fancy Manhattan residences outside of their home. They don't have the opportunity to tweet whenever they want. They don't have the opportunity to speak to reporters whenever they want. And Michael Cohen, the whole reason why he's home is because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the desire for nonviolent criminals to be given the opportunity to serve out the rest of their prison sentence at home as if they were serving that prison sentence out while they were in prison. He clearly did not do that. There's documented evidence of that. He's clearly been tweeting. There's documented evidence of that. And so he essentially put a big target on his back. And that's the reason why today he's been remanded into custody. I was just texting with our colleague, Jonathan Dienst, while you were coming to me, and he says that federal law enforcement officials are telling him that he'll be remanded into MCC, which is, of course, right next to that courthouse where you see Michael Cohen entering in from earlier this morning. That's the same prison where Jeffrey Epstein was, a prison that has been under a lot of scrutiny of late. But it makes sense because obviously Michael Cohen lives in Manhattan, and that's where he'll go for now. Unknown whether or not he'll end up at FCI Otisville, which is a much more pleasant facility. Not that anybody wants to be in jail, but if you want to be in jail, you want to be at Otisville. MCC is much tougher conditions than that. So we'll wait and see, Katie, what ends up happening with him. But Michael Cohen not paying particularly close attention to the terms of his release, and it's caught him.
Tom Winter, thank you very much. And joining us now on the phone is NBC News producer Adam Reiss. He's at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. So, Adam, earlier today, you were there when Michael Cohen walked in to 500 Pearl Street, that image we just keep showing right here. And he told you that he would come talk to you after he was out, presumably on the question or on the subject of Donald Trump losing his Supreme Court battle to Cy Vance on the issue of his taxes and his financial documents.
It would be pro forma, about a half hour, sign some documents regarding his home release, maybe be fitted for an ankle bracelet. And we were waiting. His son was out here waiting for him. It came to be about 2 hours, and we were getting suspicious, wondering what's going on. I called his wife. She said, oh, it's just taking longer than we thought. His attorney says when they arrived, immediately marshals and authorities here in the building at U.S. Federal Court said that he would need to comply with some rules. That included no more tweeting, no more writing, no more talking to reporters, no more having friends tweet on his behalf. And his attorney said, well, that would be a complete violation of his First Amendment rights. So they went into an ante room to discuss it. Before they knew it, they said that the U.S. Marshals came in and said he would be taken into custody. A real stunning development here. He thought that it would be a real quick pro forma meeting with officials here. And now, as Tom Winter said, he is at the MCC. We were told by his attorney that he was going to the MDC. That might be some confusion. The MDC is in Brooklyn. That's where Ghislaine Maxwell is being held. But it's more likely, as Tom said, that he would go to the MCC, which is literally adjacent to this building. He can be taken there underground, and we don't know what the next step is. His attorney doesn't know what the next step is, how long he'll be held, what he needs to do to be released, if, in fact, he would be going back up to Otisville. His wife called me immediately when she saw that he wasn't coming out. She is, to say the least, devastated by the news that he's not coming home this afternoon. Katie.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.